Hey guys, Jay Burton here, and today I'm bringing you my part 2 guide for the Feral Druid. This is for PvP and patch 6.2.3. I've had a few people request this one, so I decided to go ahead and do this next. I'm going to try to keep this under 10 minutes, and it's going to be a very informative guide. Part 3, which I do plan on doing eventually, will be gameplay. It'll be me commentating on what I'm doing in what situation. I plan on doing this for all specs and all guides. I'm going to be off for the next few days from work, so I plan on getting a lot done. Alright, well, let's just get into it. So, overall, what I'm going to talk about in this video is your role in the arena as a Feral Druid, your strengths, your weaknesses. It's important to really know those. And then, of course, some tips and tricks just to help you be a better player and get a higher rating. Okay, so your overall role. You are wanted in a team because you have a great burst. You can do good spread pressure because of your bleeds. You have decent spammable CC, your Cyclone. And then you also have some decent heals. Okay, so let's talk about your strengths. Kind of what I just said a little bit in your role. You have one of the best bursts in the game. It's next to Reptile's wings. When somebody sees a Feral Druid pop their burst, it's like, oh god, he's bursting, we gotta CC him or do something. Because if you don't stop the Feral, most likely a kill will happen. And also there's spread pressure. When you keep your rake and your rip up on multiple targets, give it like a solid 15 seconds, you're really going to notice some damage that was done there. It makes the enemy healer have to multi-target heal. This is important to do when you're outside of your burst, just because when you're not bursting, it's hard to really secure a kill, especially if you're just single target damaging. So you want to get some spread pressure going. And of course, another great strength is the CC. You can, I'll talk about more of the Cyclone here in a little bit, but Cyclone is just so versatile. Used offensively, defensively, there's many ways to use it. It's a great CC. And then of course, Ferals can shift out of slows and roots. Most melee can't do this, so a Feral is a strong melee and really chasing after a target. And the weaknesses, there's not too many, aside from the fact that Ferals are very squishy. Which is why, if you watch my part 1 guide, you'll know that I really recommend you just spam versatility everywhere, because you're so squishy. And then of course, Ferals don't have that great of damage outside of their 3-minute burst. So it's kind of similar to Reptiles. You get a huge burst, nothing happens, well, you're going to have to kind of AFK for 2.5 more minutes till that burst is back up. I mean, you're still going to be getting your bleeds on your body and cycloning and such, not literally AFK, but it's hard to secure a kill outside of your burst. Okay, so now I got that part out of the way. I just want to talk about overall tips and tricks. Things that can just help you be a better player and get a higher rating. So for the first thing, bursting. Some people don't burst correctly. They immediately just start popping everything at any given moment and just hope something good happens. It's not how you do it. When you want to burst, and by burst I mean use your Berserk and your Incarnation, King of the Jungle. They're both 3-minute cooldowns. They pretty much are mandatory to use together. It's just so, they synergize so well. So what you can do when you go to burst, you can either use Rake or Shred. Rake does a lot less damage. You at least want to have one Rake out there, because it'll put a nice bleed. But when you're not going for that one bleed, you want to be shredding. Now, if you are wanting to like chain stun the target, you will want to use Rake, because when you're bursting, your Rake will stun. However, whenever you use Rake over Shred, you're diminishing your burst damage by a lot. You gotta think about that. So if you're bursting on a DPS target and you don't necessarily need them stunned, if you really want to secure that kill, you really don't want to be spamming Rake. You want to just shred. Okay, so before you burst, you want to make sure you're at full energy. Some people will kind of panic and they'll be at like 10 energy and pop their burst. You're kind of AFKing for a few seconds in the middle of your burst because you don't have any energy to use anything. This is bad. So you want to wait till your energy bar is at 100. As soon as you have that, you pop your burst and you just go to town. I do normally like to open up with one Rake just to get that initial stun and bleed and then just start shredding. Another thing is Tiger's Fury. Some people think, oh, I'll go and pop my burst, I don't have any energy, but I can instantly get 60. No, that's wrong. That's not how you burst. Let me just go over the steps really quick. as soon as you're like, okay team, I'm about to burst, you want to be at 100 energy. You open up with your rake, unless they're already stunned DR'd or something, then you just shred, until you're at 0 energy, or the target is at 5 combo points, or when you have 5 combo points built up. Then you want to Tiger's Fury, which will shoot your energy back up to almost full, and then you're going to do a massive Ferocious Bite. Now, the reason why I like using Tiger's Fury with that first Ferocious Bite is because, one thing, Ferocious Bite only costs 25 energy, but it does more damage if you consume 50 energy. You can't consume any more than 50, but you can basically increase your damage of Ferocious Bite by 100% if you use Ferocious Bite at 50 energy instead of 25. Basically meaning you should never Ferocious Bite under 50 energy. So, when you get those 5 combo points built up initially off those 2 to 3 shreds based on how many crits you get, you can go Tiger's Fury for an additional 15% damage increase, plus you for sure have enough energy for that Ferocious Bite. You can do a massive hit. This is essential for a going for the kill kind of burst. So I guess I'll just demonstrate it real quick. So I'm on the target. Let's just say I'm attacking a little bit. We'll go ahead and get a rake just for a bleed. So I'm not at full energy. I'm gonna wait a second. Almost like I'm AFKing. Okay, now I'm like, okay team, Gary, I'm gonna burst. You know, maybe try to secure CC on the healer. Okay, so we go. I'm gonna stun him once, just get that bleed back, and just spam that rake. Okay. So we're gonna say he's at 5 combo points now. He shouldn't have already been. Well, hold on, I want less energy for this. Okay. So then, Tiger's Fury and Ferocious Bite. Now it only did 56k because it didn't crit, but it's still not too bad. And once again, see, I'm gonna wait for 50 energy, and then another Ferocious Bite. The reason why that's important, as I said, is because your Ferocious Bite will do up to 100% more damage. Very important for a burst. Now, there's also a different way you can use your burst. If you're with a Warlock, and you're wanting to instead of focus on that single target damage, you could pop your burst, rake one person, shred a few times and get that full rip, go to another person with your like cat leap, rake them, shred a few times and get another full rip. You can get some massive bleeds going out on everybody. I would, even if you're running Feral Lock Shaman, a pretty common comp, I would probably still go with the heavy burst on one single target. But hey, more spread pressure, you can't go wrong with that. Okay, I spent enough time talking about burst. Just to quickly review over that though, because that was a lot. Make sure you're at 100 energy before you pop your burst. Let your teammates know when you're going to burst so they can get some CC or get an interrupt ready for that healer. And then you want your Tiger's Fury off cooldown as well. And after you get 5 stacks of your combo points, or just 5 combo points, you want a Tiger's Fury into a massive Ferocious Bite. Okay, the next thing, I mentioned it briefly in my first video, but just in case you didn't watch it, power shifting. These are macros where you just push one button, like it's my shift E, you instantly shift out and back in. It's dangerous to not use shift macro because sometimes you'll like when you're trying to shift, you may end up like something doesn't click right and you're running around in cat or in human form. You don't want to do that. I'll include a macro for the power shift, but it's a really excellent way to quickly get out of that route and so you can stay on a healer. Really recommend using power shift macros. Okay, another thing to help you be a better player is using your cyclones correctly. Now, when you're bursting, I don't like to use cyclones when I'm bursting. Sometimes you do need to though, if your team can't CC the healer and you're the only one who can, but you really want to focus on your burst. But when you're outside of those cyclones, or when you're outside of the burst, you really want to be utilizing your cyclones. Your overall goal will be to just apply bleeds on people, heal your teammates with your instant cast procs and rejuvenations, and cyclone targets. The biggest target to cyclone if you're not going for a healer kill is to cyclone the healer. But let's say you get somebody low on health, make sure you call this out first, but it's good to cyclone the person you're killing. Like if they're at 25% health and the healer isn't being CC'd, like he's immune or something, or he's LOS'd, but he's somehow, still getting some good heals, cyclone that DPS target. Call it out though, or you're gonna piss off your teammates. And be like, okay, let's go secure a CC or an interrupt on the priest or a healer, whatever it is, while you have him cycloned. That's 5 seconds to do it, which is usually plenty of time. So then boom, you got the healer CC'd. You can go back to the cyclone target, finish him off. Cycloning your DPS target is very viable, especially if you're versing a Mistweaver monk and he cocoons your DPS target. Boom, just cyclone him. Don't have to worry about it. Or if the DPS target gets bopped, well, sorry, we don't call it anymore. Hand of Protection. If the pal uses that on the DPS target, or Rep pal uses it on your DPS target, just cyclone that target. Just wait it out, and the healer can't even heal him. Using Cyclone is like learning how to use it correctly. It's an important way to really increase your skill in the arena. Okay, and then last, I just wanted to briefly talk about some of the different comps. Really, there's there's two kinds of comps for Feral Druids. There's spread pressure comps, and then there's burst comps. Probably the most common spread pressure one is either Feral Lock Shaman, and there's also even Arms Warrior Feral Shaman. I don't see that one too often. Usually it's a Feral Lock Shaman. It's just lock. It puts dots on everybody, and you put bleeds on everybody. And eventually healers fall behind. Usually you can get a nice burst set up and get a kill. The downside to that comp is Fear DRs with Cyclone. This was a change in WOD. So you gotta kind of look out for that. But it's still a good comp. Burst comps, a pretty common one is BM Hunter Feral Druid. That's some heavy burst right there. And the cool thing is the Hunter has roughly a 1 minute cooldown on their burst. So if you fail to get that kill, and during your 3 minute cooldown big burst, you can always still focus on CCing other people, and your Hunter, he'll still have another burst up in 1 minute. So you can still secure a kill, even when your burst is on cooldown. I'm not saying those are the only viable comps. They're not the only viable comps. You play what you want to play. Those are just some ideas. Okay guys, well that sums it up. That's the part 2. If you had any questions, please comment in there, or in my section, and I will reply as soon as I can. I do plan on eventually getting the third part of the video, as I mentioned, which will be gameplay with commentary. That will be a little bit though. I got other classes and specs I gotta cover. If you did like the video and enjoyed it, please comment, like, or subscribe. It'll help me out a bunch. And alright guys, thank you so much for watching.